Well, we continue on, and for those of you that are just joining us, delighted to have you on board. America's Future Series continues. This is our Space Innovation Summit. We're going to be here all day today till about 5 o'clock Central Time, and then again tomorrow, much the same. So we've got lots of folks that have signed up and certainly are a part of our audience, hopefully, as early as it might be this morning, and will remain with us today. We've got some incredible guests. We've already spoken to some good people, so hats off to you. This is David, and he is the man that has put this all together for many, many years, the CEO and the founder of America's Future Series, David Hamilton. So thank you much. My name is Scott Murray, Murray Media up behind us. Delighted to have you here in our studios as we move forward.
Absolutely, and now we're getting some interesting, even more interesting parts, I think, some fun, interesting parts of the program. Again, I have to thank Jason Kim for being our presenting partner, and Harry Raduege for being our host. I think we've got Sir Richard about teed up, and we can start whenever Sir Richard's ready to go. But Jason's basically going to have a conversation with tee it up, and we're going to get to hear a little bit about Sir Richard's trip right from him, about his space flight, and anything else Sir Richard would like to visit with him about. So Jason, we're going to turn it over to you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Scott and Dave. Well, here's yet another individual who needs no introduction, someone who recently reached the edge of space aboard his own Virgin Galactic rocket plane, Sir Richard Branson. Sir Richard, thank you for joining us. It's an honor to meet you. And I was hoping you could share more about your recent flight experience with us.
Good to talk to you. Yeah, I think it was definitely the most extraordinary day of my life. I was lucky to have kids and grandkids and many friends there despite COVID. And it was really everything I dreamt of. I mean, just, I knew it was going to be extraordinary. I think for all of us on board, it was even more extraordinary than we ever could have dreamt. And it was 17 years in the making. Yeah, we live on a beautiful world, and that was affirmed. And the world is not flat, just to let you know. So, no, it was an extraordinary day.
I think there's a 2-minute video that you've provided us, so I think that can play now.
Great.
Release. Fire. Here goes space.
My father used to tell me that there are more stars in the sky than there are grains of sand on the earth. Yeah, only a handful of people in the world have been to space, and we will change that. Space should be for everyone. We will change the world for good through access to space. We want to make room for the next generation by building a space line for Earth. This is just the beginning of Virgin Galactic in the same way that the Wright brothers was the beginning for airline travel. And we're proud through Virgin Galactic to be a vanguard of the new space age. In the same way that my generation had wonderful explorers that we looked up to, we want to create the heroes of the future. When most people think of space travel, they look backwards. I want people to be inspired by the space missions of today and the space missions of tomorrow.
3, 2, 1, release.
This is a moment for all of us.
Fire. 10, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 59, trips in, maximum is 325. Mach 2.5. Mach 3.
this is the culmination of the curiosity and dreams of the human race.
Yeah, it's a pinch myself moment looking at that. I'm afraid I can't hear you. I don't know whether you're on mute. I still can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, bring me on.
Okay, there you're
Hello,
on
Sir
now.
Richard. Okay.
Hello, Sir
Yep, I
Richard.
can
Can
hear
you
you.
hear us? Okay.
We'll let Jason
I can hear
continue.
you fine.
I'm sorry, no, I don't think you can hear
No,
Jason,
I
right?
don't
So,
think you can
so,
hear, yeah.
so, Sir Richard, while I have you, it's great to see you, sir. Thank you for being here with us. That's an
Thank
amazing
you.
video that we just showed. And I just wondered if you mind sharing sort of, now that you've been up there and you've seen the world and proven that it's not flat, we appreciate that. What your next what your next vision is, where you see things going here in the future with regard to space and space exploration.
Well, as far as putting people into space, there are literally hundreds of thousands of people who'd love to become astronauts, love to go to space, and that's something that I think between Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin, we will be able to build more and more spaceships, and we'll be able to put a lot of people into space in the years to come. And then we have Virgin Orbit, which is a wonderful, innovative organization that has had 4 successful flights into space and put more than 30 satellites into orbit. And the team there, they stay in touch with new developments. They quickly adopt them into their strategy. They accelerate their development. If they pan out, great. If they don't pan out, they change course. And they do everything with urgency and agility. And it's the kind of organization that at Virgin we're proud of having developed. And the great thing about Virgin Orbit, they just got 2 more 747s. We'll base them around the world so that we can put satellites up into any orbit within 24 hours very quickly. I think now we need more and more low Earth orbit satellites, and we can A, put them up, but B, we can replace them as and when they fall out.
Yes, sir. So if Jason can chime in, I'd love for him to ask a question, but I've got one real quick while we're fixing Jason's issues. You were recently in the Ukraine, and I want to applaud you for your efforts there and for bringing attention to the challenge to the horrific war that's going on there. But it seems that Virgin Orbit and some of the companies like that are in the right place at the right time. They're the right company with the right capability. And if it wasn't for that capability, I think this war probably would have been over. But if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that and the ability for us to be resilient and for us to be able to protect our space assets, like with organizations like Virgin Orbit.
I think that being able to see what's going on from space throughout Ukraine has been incredibly important for the military in Ukraine. Having said that, having come back from Ukraine, having talked to the foreign minister and President Zelensky, I think that NATO and the Western world, we've got to do more, and we've got to do it more quickly. It's a numbers game. The Russians seem to have something like 10 weapons for every one weapon that the Ukrainians have. And unless Ukraine get closer to the 10 to 10, we're just going to see city after city beaten to pieces. More and more people maimed and killed. We in the West have to treat Ukraine as if our own country is being attacked. it is a long way away. A lot of people don't even know where it is on the map. But after Ukraine comes Poland, and after Poland could come the rest of Europe, and after the rest of Europe could come other even the United States of America one day. So if we can move quickly, if we can give the Ukrainians the firepower that they need, then they can stop the Russians from continuing to move further forward, and hopefully start pushing the Russians back and out of Ukraine. But speed is of the essence, and the military and we just have to move twice as quickly as we currently are, and we will, I know, do the right thing, over the next 2 or 3 years, but it's got to be over the next 2 or 3 months.
Well said. And agility, I appreciate your talking about agility. The private sector, organizations like yours in particular, are incredibly agile, incredibly quick. We really need the DoD and the rest of our military apparatus to respond. While we're looking at our calendar, Ukraine is looking at its watch. We have to move in seconds and minutes and hours, not in weeks and months. And you're bringing attention to that. Fantastic. Really appreciate you doing it. Is there anything particular that you would argue or that you've learned from Zelensky that we need to do most? Where are the areas of deepest need, especially regarding technology and space?
Drones is a area that needs to be. They urgently need more drones to back up the satellite pictures they're getting, and the Russians have gone out and using non-Russian companies. They've tried to secure most of the drones in the world, not even for their own use, just to stop Ukrainians getting them. NATO needs to cut through that and make sure that Ukraine have enough drones to pinpoint the enemy and do something about it. So we have over the last few days been just trying to contact drone companies worldwide to try to get them to be in touch with NATO, be in touch with the people who are coordinating it, and help as fast as they can. I think the biggest thing that could happen, that if there's any military people listening, and I don't know whether John Hyten is on this call, but South Korea has pretty well everything that Ukraine need in excess, and if South Korea was to give sort of 5% or 6% of what they have, and then maybe have Germany that doesn't have any weapons replace it over the next 6 months or the next year, that I think could change the course of the war. So if there's a shortage of supply, South Korea has it, and it would be great if NATO could talk to South Korea, the new president there, and get her to switch 5 to 10% of the firepower they have, but pledge to replace that rapidly in the months to come.
Well said, sir.
Can I ask a quick question?
I'd like to bring Jason Kim back.
Oh, okay.
I think he's got his mic working again, and of course I'd like to bring General John Hyten on. You guys know each other, et cetera, and we're hoping that we're looking forward to you all having a little visit. So Jason, if you would take it from here, please, sir. Don't have sound. So, Sir Richard, you can't hear Jason. Is that right, sir?
I'm afraid not.
So we'll try again soon. General Hyten, welcome, sir.
Greetings. That's interesting to hear.
Are you in Scotland, sir?
I'm in Scotland. I'm at Cruden Bay. Actually, look out the window at the North Sea and a spectacular golf course Uh, it's a beautiful place. My
So
favorite.
rough duty you're doing there. I'm Scottish, so I had to do a little shout out about that. So anyway,
I'm three-quarters Scottish too, so
there you go.
that's one of the good things about finally retiring is that you're able to actually spend some time on the golf course. So
Oh,
I hope you have a great couple of days.
we 7 days in St Andrews last week, and then up to the northern part of Scotland, and we're at Royal Aberdeen today, and Cruden Bay, and it's one of the most magical, and the weather's been great. How often does that happen?
That is wonderful.
That's very special. Well, my grandmother at 91 hit a hole in one, so I hope you have good luck.
Perfect.
It cost me a lot of money. I had to go and buy everybody a drink at her club, but it was well worthwhile.
Well
Perfect.
done. So I'd love to have you guys visit a little bit. You know each other, the general your experience and accomplishments and support of our efforts in space. One of the things that Dan Hart had suggested was that maybe the two of you talk a little bit about growing innovative cultures in fast-growing and building innovative cultures in fast-growing organizations, which you both have done. So I'd like to turn it over to you a little bit, if you would have maybe both talk a little bit about your work together and the collaboration between private sector and our military, especially in the area of space, and then maybe your own little experiences about how you've grown innovative cultures, because innovation seems to be the key. This is a David and Goliath enterprise we're involved in, right, against the Chinese, so we have to be smarter, faster, agile, and all that. So I'd turn it over to you. If either of you like to talk a little bit about that, that would be wonderful.
After you, Seth.
Well, thank you very much, Sir Richard. So innovation is an interesting term. Innovation, culture, those are words I actually try not to use. I think that what creates a new culture, what creates a culture of innovation, is an audacious goal that catches the imagination of people that want to accomplish that goal. And that can be a goal in time, that can be a goal in place, that can be a goal in a thing. But once a group of people grab onto something that just fascinates them, they will work endlessly and they will accomplish amazing things. They will be innovative. And if they have a leader that empowers them to go after whatever those goals are, with a little bit of freedom of maneuver, it's amazing the innovation that will happen. I had a boss once that told me, I was a brand new 4-star general, and he looked at me, and it was Larry Welch. For many of you know Larry Welch, one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And I was talking about all the changes that needed to be made. And he said, what rank are you anyway? And I looked at my shoulder and I said, sir, I'm a general. He said, yes, sir, that's a pretty amazing thing. Then he said, and what is your job title? And I said, it's commander. And he goes, that's a pretty amazing thing too. Did you ever think it might be a good idea if you just would go out and tell your people what you want to do, why you want, and lead them forward to accomplishing what that is? People want to do that. And for so many times, we forget to actually just tell people where we're going and why we need to get there and how fast we have to get there. So to me, it's a fascinating, observation in how people work. But to me, having that fabulous goal that gets people excited, like if you saw that video a while ago of operating in space, that just excites people. That's how I think people get excited and innovate. Sir Richard.
Well said.
I don't know whether you heard the conversation earlier, or whether you've just come on, but we were talking about Ukraine, and I was just, I mean, now you're retired. Hopefully, you can actually speak a bit more freely than if you were still in the position you were before. I mean, I just can't work out whether NATO and the West are taking it as seriously as they need to and moving as quickly as they need to. Having come back from Ukraine, it doesn't feel like we're treating it as if our own country's been attacked. And And I just really wondered, from your point of view as somebody that is looking at it now, from a retired position, and if you can't comment, I understand. But I mean, are we doing what's needed to win this war?
I'll be glad to comment. I'm not I'm not going to hold back. I'd like to think I would have commented if I was still on active duty, but you're right. I'm a little bit freer now to talk. I think the best place to start is that I think the only single time. So I was in the military over 40 years, and I was a 4-star general for over 7 years, and I was tired at the end, and I was ready to retire. And the retirement day that I didn't think would ever, when it finally came, I was ready. I was not sad. I was not, that was the time. And the only time that I wished I was back in the Pentagon was when I looked up on the television, and I was in a public establishment, we'll just put it that way. And I looked up at the television, and Russia was invading Ukraine. And I tried to say I was disappointed. And my wife finally looked at me and said, you're mad. And I was mad. I was angry because it was a failure of deterrence. And that's the first thing we have to realize, is that we failed when we allow. And oh, by the way, Vladimir Putin said he was going to do this in the year 2000, when he was 2 days after he was elected president. He said it in 2004 and 2006. He did it the first time in 2014. And every time the West, NATO and the United States in particular, we would rationalize it saying he's just doing this for internal political purposes. No, he's not. He has said what he's going to do. He's going to reestablish the motherland being the Soviet Union. This is his vision of the future, and we have to listen, and then we have to move quickly. And this is what you said a while ago is absolutely correct. There needs to be a sense of urgency in everything that we do. Now, I think the West has done a lot of good things since the day of the invasion. But once deterrence has failed, it's just not the standard, okay, now we'll send a few guns, a few bullets, a few supplies, and everything's going to be fine. No, deterrence has failed. Now you have to build it back up and not only turn the equation on the other side, but then reestablish the deterrence position with the Russian. And that's going to be difficult to do. But it's not going to happen with episodic, a little bit here and a little bit there. You have to decide, what is our position on Ukraine? What is the end state we want for Ukraine? And the West hasn't said that. We haven't even made the public statement saying we want the borders back to where they were before Crimea. We haven't said anything along those lines. We have to say, this is the end state that we want. And oh, by the way, we don't want Russia. That's crazy. Vladimir Putin thinks we want Russia. Nobody in the West wants Russia. That's for the Russians. But we want free countries to be able to live on their own, like Ukraine, like Estonia, like Georgia, like Poland, like you went down the list a while ago. So we have to act with a sense of urgency. And a lot of good things have been happening. It's just our government in particular is just too slow in almost everything that we do. So I went off a little bit there, so I apologize. But
so yeah, the invasion has happened. I mentioned earlier that the foreign minister of Ukraine said to me, could somebody get in touch with the new president in South Korea, and could we not get them to ship 5 to 10% of all the weapons they've got, to Ukraine, because they have them there sitting, doing just as a deterrent, and then have those replaced. Is that an idea that it seemed very logical? Even person, is that something which you could, if it makes sense, could you try to pick up the phone and try to see whether you could help on that?
Well, I think South Korea is an interesting option, but I think NATO has everything that NATO needs in order to effectively respond to, if we just respond. I think that every free nation on the planet, South Korea, Australia, every NATO nation, every free nation should be concerned when a sovereign nation gets invaded. A sovereign nation that is a free nation gets invaded. Every nation on the earth should be concerned, and every nation should come to its aid. And so I'll continue to talk to numerous people, but fundamentally, this is in NATO's backyard. And if you look at Sweden and Finland and their new approach to NATO, everything that can be brought to bear from Germany, from France, from the United Kingdom, from the United States, there is plenty of, I'll just say, military capabilities that can be brought to bear quickly if the West wants to do that. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, General.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sir Richard. That's an amazing question. That's fantastic. We want to be sensitive to your time, Sir Richard. If you'd like to stay, we'd love to have you. And I'd like to turn it over to Jason. I think his sound works.
Yes, can you hear
Richard,
me?
I want to thank you. We can hear you, sir.
Great.
So, Sir Richard, would you, this was about the time that we had arranged for you to be with us. I want to say thank you for your being with us today. And any last remarks?
I'll just say instead of go Tigers, let's say go Ukraine, go Clemson, or go Tigers, go Clemson. Anyway, great that you retired. Best of luck on the golf course, and it's been a real pleasure talking to you again, John. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sir Richard.
Thank
Very
you,
good. And I'm a Roll Tide. Jay Raymond is a Clemson person, so that's one area where we. So I can't just let that. If Jay happened to be watching, he hold that over my head forever.
Yeah. Well, anyway, go hit a hole in one. We'll see, and maybe we can talk further on the Ukraine situation sometime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Richard.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks.
Hi, General Hyten. We talked a lot about responsive space today, and your words are inspiring to us always. And companies like Virgin Orbit and Millennium Space Systems like ours are doing everything we can to continue doing responsive space and delivering our systems so that the warfighters can keep our nation safe. So I wanted to congratulate you, General Hyten. I just want to offer a heartfelt thank you for your leadership in space, in the defense of this nation, and in inspiring service members, like myself. I was a veteran and in industry alike, and I'm thrilled to know you'll continue that leadership with industry going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason. I very much appreciate it. And we've been looking at resilient space for a long time, you and I and many, many others. And things are starting to take shape now. For a long time, we made the mistake of only looking at resilient rockets. Resilient rockets aren't really good if you don't have resilient satellites to go with them. And if you don't have an effective command and control system that can hook into that satellite right away and operate it, it doesn't work. So it's got to be the entire enterprise. And little pockets in our community have looked at pieces for a long time, but finally you see the entire enterprise coming together with satellites available, with rockets available, and with an integrated ground system that can operate everything. That's pretty exciting to watch. But oh, by the way, it's not quite there yet.
And we've also listened to you and listened to your guidance of it's going to take a lot of allied partnerships and partnerships in general. And that's something that we're also working on as well.
No, it's pretty interesting. Even, you look at New Zealand, you look at the European nations, you look at nations all around the world are not only continue to be fascinated by space, but all of a sudden realize now that the price of entry is not, a significant element of their gross national product. They look at private industry, and all of a sudden there's a business case to be made for access to space in many ways. So it's, we thought we were there 20, 25 years ago when we were looking at, teledesic and a number of different constellations coming on, and that was a little bit of a false prophecy. Right now it's real. Right now the companies are making it real, and the investment shows that it's real. So it is exciting, but now we have to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Well, back to you, David. Would you, without further ado, read the inscription on the award?
Absolutely. And then after that, we want to play a couple of little videos from friends of yours, sir, that I think you might find valuable, find interesting and a little heartwarming. But I appreciate your helping us pick this, sir. I appreciate that you like this better than the American Eagle. It is American-made, no more Chinese-made American Eagles. So this award, the America's Future Series Space Innovation and Leadership Award, is given to John Hyten, presented by Jason Kim of Millennium Space Systems, a Boeing company, today. And it's given for all of your contributions and accomplishments in the support and the advancement of the commercialization and defense of space and your service to our nation in uniform. We really appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very much.
This will be sent to your home in the States, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll only be in Scotland for another week, so I very much appreciate the recognition, the award. To me, the most important part is all the people that have helped drive our nation to finally recognize the power of a commercial space industry in our country. You know, it's not that long ago, just 15 years ago, when you looked at our launch business, and the United States was almost completely out of the launch business. People don't realize that's just 15 years ago. And China, Russia, Europe, they were dominating the launch business, and we were launching almost nothing. Look back at 2006 and 2007 at the launch manifests. There's pretty much nothing going up. No satellites were ready, no rockets were ready. That's why United Launch Alliance had to be established, because there wasn't enough business for two companies back then. But now the United States leads the world in the launch business again, and we're driving innovation with our allies and partners. And how did we do that? We did that through the commercialization of the launch business. And right now it's pretty interesting, because ULA, with the recent Kuiper Award, has become a commercial space company. And SpaceX is a commercial space company, and Blue Origin's a commercial space company. Virgin's a commercial space company. They're commercial companies that provide the most critical national security, and that will allow us an improved defense as we move into the next challenges we face from China and Russia in particular in the future as we go forward. So the commercialization and defense of space, many people think they're two different things. They're actually very much intertwined, and so I very much appreciate the recognition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And we know a warrior's mission is never done. You're going to continue to serve. You've got great plans, and I believe that you're going to be leading Club Blue. And if you wanted to chat with us a little bit about that real quick, and maybe your work with Blue Origin, and then we'll let you go and let you go have a week of trying to hit a hole-in-one.
It's pretty exciting, really, because Blue Origin has formed something that's along their primary business line. Jeff Bezos has driven the entire company to make sure that everybody remembers part of their job is to inspire and educate the next generation as well. And so they formed a Club for the Future. That's the actual specific name of the Club for the Future. And we're taking the money that comes from the space tourism business, the many millions of dollars that come in from that, and we're putting it into STEM-based charities across this nation. Last year, 19 $1 million grants. This year, we hope to be more than that. But the focus is very simple. How do you energize the next generation of youth in our country and across the planet to make sure that when they look up at the heavens, they don't just see stars, they see their future. And when they see their future, that's when motivation happens. And with motivation comes innovation, comes new ideas. I mean, my dad worked on the Saturn V. That's what got me excited. I got to see and meet Von Braun and the Apollo astronauts. I got to watch the Saturn V launch, and that is my most formative memories of my youth. And like Sir Richard Branson said a while ago, you want people to be able to look forward and get excited about space, not just back. And that's what's happening right now. And it is so exciting. So that's what the Club for the Future is. It's just trying to make a difference, working with a lot of other charities, a lot of other people are doing the same thing. But we're trying to partner with everybody to just energize the youth of America and the world. Thanks for that opportunity to say.
Certainly. Well, we appreciate your continued efforts and service to our nation. And Jason, if it's all right, I'll go ahead and we'll have a couple messages from people that know the General well. We'll play those, and then we'll take a little break. And I just want to say thank you to both of you. So please stay tuned for these two messages.
Good afternoon. I am extremely thankful to have this opportunity to offer my sincere congratulations to General John Hyten, on this well-deserved recognition. John, ever since becoming your best friend in 2007, when I had the privilege of replacing you in theater as the Director of Space Forces, allowing you to go back home to Laura and your kids, I have looked up to you as a friend, a boss, and a mentor. Your career and contributions to space power are legendary, especially your forward-thinking outlook on space as a warfighting domain and the implications of that transformation. From Second Lieutenant to the 11th Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, you've been at the center of the evolution of the character of war. Your leadership has made a huge impact on our joint forces, and your time in command, whether at the squadron, group, wing, major command, or at U.S. Strategic Command as a combatant commander, were so impactful to many. You knew before almost anyone else what was coming. You are a major proponent of the forming of an independent service called the Space Force. And in fact, I'm not sure we'd have a Space Force today if it weren't for your foresight, your hard work, and your leadership over several decades. You are also one of the first to point out the need for speed and innovation due to the fast pace of our adversaries. And you propose innovative approaches to retain our strategic advantage, such as leveraging commercial capabilities when available, and emphasizing the urgency of speeding up our slow acquisition processes. I have no doubt that your legacy will include being one of the Space Force's first and strongest supporters. Congratulations again. Molly and I miss you and Laura. Semper Super, and oh yeah, go Tigers.
Congratulations, John, on a distinguished career in the world's greatest Air Force and on this special recognition. Your tenacity to innovate in both the air and space domains increased the collaboration and integration of air-based and space-based sensors, allowing the Air Force to execute its mission to fly, fight, and win air power anytime, anywhere. You pioneered understanding for our nation and our allies and partners that space is a warfighting domain and helped our joint warfighters better incorporate space capabilities into its operations. As the Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, your leadership and reshaping of the joint requirements process and your mentorship to me and so many others is very much appreciated. All the best in your future endeavors.
Hello, General. I just want to say thank you on behalf of a very grateful nation. Thank you for your career. Thank you for your accomplishments and your contributions. And we look forward to seeing your great work with Club of the Future and your work with Blue Origin and other companies as they support the American national security interest in space and here down on the ground. We want to thank you again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great day. Hello, everyone. We're back from a little break, and we're going to have a great opportunity to put General Hyten back on with us and have him visit with his good and great friend, Chris Miller, Lieutenant General Chris Miller. They're going to expand a little bit on the thoughts that they had in a little bit more detail about space. And we've got General Hyten with us there, and we've got General Miller. So, Chris, I want to say hello. I want to say thank you. Thank you for being our host today and helping put this thing together. And I hope you have a great conversation. I know you'll have a great conversation with the General, and we'll be back when you're done.
Okay, well, you're very welcome, David. General Hyten, great to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Chris. That's a good backdrop.
Yeah, I figured, it's kind of the space-air boundary, which is kind of where I'm living these days. It's an honor to get a chance to chat with you. You started a little bit after I did in Air Force Blue, and you finished quite a bit after I did. And I think the two of us had a chance to live through some really, really amazing, informative times in air and space power. And so I just would like to kind of get your thoughts on a couple of things that you didn't touch on in that great conversation with Sir Richard and Jason and David. I think one of the most interesting things about your comment on innovation and the importance of audacious goals is that you not only were able to do that in a a whole variety of assignments over your 40 years, but you also did something that I think is much more difficult, and that is figure out ways to allow people to take smart risk inside big bureaucratic organizations. And I wonder if you could kind of give us just a couple of minutes of thought on how did that look in practice? How did you incentivize your people to be open, to be aggressive, to be smart about doing things that the system didn't necessarily want them to do?
But it was real interesting to me, and Jay Raymond talked a little bit about when he replaced theater 16 years ago. The year I was in theater, or 6 months I was in theater, I learned more about risk. That's when we met. We met up at Bagram.
Yep.
I learned more about risk, and what fascinated me about what I learned was that our military culture understands risk, I think, better than almost any culture in the world, because in the most horrible environment, in the most challenging of times, in war, we understand when to take risk and when not to take risk. And we empower our youngest people. We'll empower a young Army staff sergeant with a platoon of 4 in a lethal environment in a village in Afghanistan to employ lethal force on an adversary, if necessary, to defend himself or to accomplish an objective. But it has to be legal, it has to be ethical, it has to be all those things that we've been trained. But we are unbelievably empowered to take that risk. And then I come back into the bureaucracy of the Pentagon, and those same people can't even decide whether to start a program or not. And we fight through this amazing bureaucracy. So inherently, we understand what risk is and we understand how to take it. We just have to figure out how to do it in everything that we do accordingly. And then I look back at my legends that, lucky enough, I'm old enough, I got to meet, I got to meet von Braun, I got to meet Schriever, I got to meet Doolittle, I got to meet so many amazing, amazing people that took risk early on and did amazing things because of that. And I wondered, why did we lose it? Because I saw that same risk understanding in theater. So why don't we do it every day? So I said, from that day forward, I'm just going to start trying to apply that same risk-based model. Now, that doesn't mean we do stupid things. That means we take chances where those chances have huge payoffs. And every once in a while, you're going to fail. And when that person fails, as long as you haven't made an enormous mistake that kills somebody that does something like that, that's just part of learning. I challenge everybody on this to think back during their formative years in college, their young early days of their career. I bet you they can remember, every one of them, learning the most from the failures that they made. But it's not because they stopped, it's because they learned something that they can then apply and move forward. So risk is just something that we do, but we lost that in certain elements of our military, and we still have struggle with it. We're going to have to get that back.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. If you think about the formation of the Space Force and the back and forth over air, space, aerospace, and all of the ways that we've tried to conceptualize domains that literally encircle the planet. The Space Force is, I think, off to an amazing start, with much credit to you and General Raymond and others who envisioned it. How do you see the Space Force maturing over the next few years, and what do you think are both the strengths and the less strong things that our guardians need to concentrate on as they take that service to literally new heights?
I'll try to give 2 positives, and there's a lot of big positives to choose from, and then I'll talk about 2 negatives. I think the biggest positives by far are the creation of this cadre of unbelievably intelligent, motivated, excited people that are focused on this critical domain and ready to move forward as fast as the country will let them. And they're ready to go. All you have to do is point them in the right direction and they're going to go. And General Raymond and the leadership in the Space Force did an amazing job of kind of pulling the people in, hand selecting people from all the services. I've met 20-year lieutenant colonels. I'm sitting at a dinner with a 20-year lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, and he's going to leave the Army and join the Space Force after over 20 years in the Army. And, you know, that's his culture. That's who he is. But his passion for the future is going to put him into the Space Force. So that creation of people and structure is just amazing. I think the second big advantage is this focus on warfighting and focus on the adversary. Understanding exactly what the adversary is, exactly what the adversary is doing, and understanding the need to move effectively against that. I think everything is there to allow that to happen. So those are the two big positives. I think two negatives that I worry about. Number one is we still have not cracked the code on how to move fast in acquisition. The Congress of the United States in the 2019 Defense Authorization Act that created the Space Force, that was signed by the president, and that went into action in December of 2019, gave the Space Force basically a blank sheet of paper to define their acquisition process, how they want to move fast. And General Raymond and his team put together an approach, and they couldn't get it through the bureaucracy for 2 years. The entire time I was there as the vice chairman, it never made it through the bureaucracy all the way back to Congress. That you can't even get a process back to Congress, much less a program. And now they're being criticized by the Appropriations Committee for trying to do too much too fast. Well, I don't know if anybody's looked, but the threat is real. It exists today. You better be doing a lot really fast, and you better be taking some chances, and that means you're going to fail every once in a while. And I would hope that the Appropriations Committee understands that they're going to have to start taking risk in appropriations as well. I know they don't like to do that because that puts Americans' tax dollars at risk, but our future as a nation's at risk if we don't figure out how to do this. So we still haven't put into place a fully formed acquisition process that can move fast enough, and we've got to do that. And the second piece I worried about is the future nature of what a joint space officer is. Because for those of you that are military, a joint officer is somebody that can work effectively with the other services, that has spent time working with the other services. That's where the joint staff comes from. That's where combatant commands come from. That's where the war fighting really comes to fruition in a joint environment, not in a service environment. The services, the Space Force, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, they're just force providers to a joint force that actually has to do things. So we're going to have to create joint expertise in the Space Force. And right now, I understand it's early, and I understand it's only 3 years, but you just have to start thinking about how do I place people so I bring space into the Army, space into the other combatant commands, space into different services. Start expanding that knowledge and getting everybody to understand that the integration of not just land, sea, and air, but space and cyberspace is going to be just as important. So those are the two things I worry about. But overall, I'm pretty excited about where it's going, and the direction is really good. I think that the leadership of the force has done a great job in moving it there. The bureaucracy is just really tough sometimes.
Yeah. I think we're probably going to have time for maybe one more topic. So I'm torn between asking you for your vision of what future defense and commercial cooperation looks like, and how much, for example, the commercial enterprises can drive some urgency into defense acquisition, or just asking you, as you look back on your 40 years of maturing the nation's space capability, what was what was your biggest takeaway? What was the kind of gem of a lesson that you have taken into retirement and that you're now going to take into exciting the next generation of young Americans?
Well, I tell you, Chris, when I look at what it's going to take to excite the next generation of young Americans, it's the same thing that excited you. It's the same thing that excited me. It's the same thing that's going to excite our kids. And in many cases, I don't know what that is, but I know it's something that's different. And the neat thing about space is it's always different. We have only scratched the surface. In the video that Virgin did with Richard Branson, or Sir Richard Branson, a while ago, he talked about there's more stars in the universe than sand on the planet Earth, and grains of Earth. That's true. We've only scratched the surface. We've only been to the moon. We have no earthly idea what is really out there. And as you start expanding and you get kids to start thinking about, hey, that could be me. I could actually go do that. I could be exploring Mars, and I could be building the things that'll explore the solar system and then beyond the solar system. And I can build the telescope that can see out to the solar system beyond our solar system. And I can build all of these things and learn. That's when the exciting comes from. I think when you look at my career, I think the most important thing is, integrity and honesty. I think you're working for the center at the Academy that's looking at character development. And it's really pretty simple when it comes right down to there's a right and a wrong, and you have to be honest. And we're human beings, and we're going to make mistakes. And when you make a mistake, it's really important to stand up and say, hey, I made a mistake. This is what I was thinking. This is what I'm doing. Now we're going to go this direction. And when you're honest with people, people will follow you. And the moment you're not honest, they will not follow you anymore. So you have to be able to stand up and do the right thing in order to move forward. And then you have to create that audacious vision that captures the mind and the spirit of the people that you work with. Because when that happens, then leadership is a whole lot easier, because then I actually need to get out of the way. When you reach the point where your organization is moving a little faster than you are, the tendency is to kind of jump in front of it and say, hey, slow down. Now that's the point where you have to say, I'm going to step back and just watch them go. And then when they get off the rails a little bit, I'm going to jump back in and put them back on. But when they're going fast, for gosh sakes, let them go. One of my favorite stories, I think you've heard it, my great-grandfather was a hero of mine. I was named John Earl after him. And he taught me many, many things. But one of the great things he taught me, because he liked horses, he liked horse races. And he said, John, you know how you make a horse run fast? I said, no, Papa, how do you do that? He said, you let them run, because that's what horses like to do. You rein them in to slow them down. So you got to let them run. It's the same with people. If you give them some rein and you let them run, it's amazing what they can do. So I know I touched on a bunch of things in your question, but it really is. It's that simple and that complex all in one.
That's a great lesson, sir. I just have to add one personal reflection. When you mentioned seeing a Saturn V launch, my best friend in high school and I had tickets to go from Northern Virginia on the train down to Florida to watch Apollo 10, and the launch got scrubbed for weather, and we lost our opportunity. But I sometimes wonder what that would have been like, and I hope you have great success in continuing to inspire people you work with and those that you influence. So thank you very much, and congratulations again on a truly well-deserved award.
And thanks to Jason. Thanks to everybody for this. I enjoyed the conversation. It's always good to see you, Chris. We're going to have to see each other in Colorado, though.
Sounds
You
good.
play golf there, right, Chris?
That's right.
All right.
Thank you, General Hyten, and again, congratulations. Well deserved. Thanks so much for your time. And General Miller, great job. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
We really appreciate both of you. All you do, all your service, but today was just very special. So a giant thank you to you both. Be safe.